the way it was back in the 40s and 50s. One of my professors here at UCR, we have this mountain behind our school, which you can see every day, every single day. You know, you walk into class and there is a C for the University of California, and it's painted in yellow. And he said that there were years and days during the year that you could not see that C. So I mean, that mountain is right next to campus. So imagine not being able to see that. I couldn't even imagine. So I have a little presentation before we show the film. The film was put together by the South Coast Air Quality Management District, which is a combination that was made between the Los Angeles County Air Quality District, Riverside Air Quality District, San Bernardino, and Orange County. So the 4 districts combined into one because we're all in the same basin. So it just makes sense to do the work together. And I have a little background on the agency before we watch the movie, so that way we know a little bit more of what they talk about in the film. And yeah, so I'm going to share screen. Let me know if you can see. Can you see it?
Yep, it looks great.
All right, so previously mentioned, the air pollution story in Los Angeles Basin, it is a success story that is still in progress. As previously mentioned, the air is not 100% as clean as it should be. However, the city and also the basin and the cities in the basin now meet federal standards, which before they didn't. They were way, way, way above that. And it's still in progress. There's some days that are not the best. There's still a lot of air pollution, but it's come a long way since the 40s. So what's funny is that one of the indications, so people noticed that, you know, their eyes were hurting and that they couldn't breathe very well. But one of the indications that was like hard data on air pollution in Los Angeles was that they actually found that smog was hurting plants, and that plant damage research was done here at my university, which is one of the reasons why my school is very well known, is on the agricultural and air pollution research. And interestingly enough, one of the first stations that monitor air pollution in Los Angeles back in the 50s is still in Los Angeles. And you think, well, when did air pollution start in Los Angeles? And it all started, it was before World War II. It was a big issue. Los Angeles suffered from smog because industrial smoke and fumes were so thick during one day in 1903 that residents mistook it for an eclipse of the sun. So that's quite intense. And then from 1905 to 1912, the Los Angeles City Council adopted several measures to combat dense smoke emissions. And as the century progressed, the city sprawled and industry boomed, overwhelming those first primitive air pollution control measures. As you guys know, LA is, I believe, the largest city by area, not by population. And therefore, there's a lot of pollution sources. World War II dramatically increased the region's industrial base in terms of the air pollution, and the city's population and motor vehicle fleet grew rapidly as well. As a result, according to the weather records, visibility declined rapidly from 1939 to 1943. As you can see, that's in the 1940s, and that's downtown Los Angeles. Downtown Los Angeles does not look like that anymore. It looks more like in the right, and some days might be smoggy and a little dusty, like in the photo at the bottom, but for the most part, you can see what's in front of you, something that in the 40s you could not. Pollution, smoke in the 40s was so dense and pervasive, it constituted as a serious menace to aviation. And, you know, that's something that was very serious back then. So there was mentioned, it arrived before World War II, and people in Los Angeles started to realize that it was the smoke, the that was causing this air pollution that clouded their vision and that, you know, filled their lungs with toxins. As you can see, there's a photo right there. I don't know who that woman is exactly, but she is known. It is a famous person. Don't know her name. As you can see, she's steering or cleaning her eyes because she can barely see because of all the pollution. So in 1945, the supervisors banned emissions of dense smoke, and the Directors of Air Pollution Control was established. During the war, Angelinos perceived smoke from factories, and health officer Dr. H.O. swore out, who asserted that smog in fact came from many sources: smoke belching locomotives and diesel trucks, burning rubbish in the back, incinerators, city dumps, and many other combustion sources. In the late 1946, the Angeles Times hired a pollution expert, Tucker, of St. Louis, to analyze the Los Angeles smog problem and make recommendations to correct it. And what he basically said is that it wasn't just a few smokestacks, as people thought. It came from many, many, many sources that needed to be regulated. Tucker recommendation became a reality. And then there were a lot of businesses that actually denied that their businesses or that their factories or whatever their emission source was actually adding to the air pollution in the region. So they opposed the state law repeal that would give manufacturer the right to necessary discharge of smoke of fumes and the creation of an air pollution permit system. However, eventually, in the 1950s, the Orange County air pollution, air quality, what is it called? The Air Pollution Control District in Orange County, which was created in 1947. And 3 years later, the Riverside San Bernardino and the Orange County, Riverside San Bernardino, and the LA Air Pollution Control District united into what it is now, the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And ever since then, since the 50s, they've done a lot of remarkable job understanding the Los Angeles smog, which is technically not smog because there is a lot of it is produced in the atmosphere. When you say smog, it means that it's smoke and fog, right? But a lot of it is not smoke from the actual factories. A lot of it is produced like ozone. You know, NOx from the Port of Long Beach travels inland and through a photocatalytic reaction, traveling inland, it turns into ozone, and that's something that wasn't known. And this type of research was promoted by the agency, and eventually, lots of different controls were later established by the agency. There's a lot, and if you would like to learn more about it, I would suggest that you go to the Air Quality Management District website, and there's a really long story that it can show. Previously mentioned, that's all the stuff I said previously. This is something that they, let's see, I have my cheat sheet over here. This is the Beckman Committee, and this is during the birth of the modern air pollution control. This is around 1952, and these are the different recommendations that they had to reduce air pollution in the basin, which is, you know, reducing hydrocarbon emissions, to establish automated exhaust standards, that diesel trucks and buses would burn propane instead of diesel, that heavily polluted industries were considered slowing their growth, the banning of open burning of trash, and the development of a rapid transit system, which is still under development. It's not very developed at the moment. But as you can see, and they also promoted the smog check program. So what this is in California, you have to take your car to, it is sort of a mechanic. And what they do is they check that your car complies to the state regulations to see if there's the right amount of PM, particulate matter, NOx, and all the other components that make up the LA air pollution, they want your vehicle to be in compliance to that, because if you do not pass smog, you will not be able to register your car. So South Coast Air Quality Management District also promoted that, and now it is real throughout the state of California and a few other states. So the city of Los Angeles has grown a lot. As you can see in the graph on the right, you can see that right now in 2016, there's around 17 million people in the area. By 2020, it's projected to be almost 20 million. So there's a lot of people living here, but as you can see, the peak ozone levels have decreased. And this is all because of the work of agencies like this that have prohibited certain activity and also have monitored and regulated sources. Also, the number of cars has increased, and the growth of miles traveled have also increased, because people, in LA and Orange County, it is so expensive to live. A lot of people live inland and they commute to the more expensive areas, and people still drive their car, and more people are driving, but air pollution is decreasing. And it is a constant challenge that this area is always going to have, but the challenge is being accomplished. And even though the work is not fully done yet, it has come a long way. And this is currently some of the technologies that the agency is advancing. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I would honestly recommend that you go on the website of the South Coast Air Quality Management District, because they have a lot of very great information, as they are they were the first unified air pollution agency. And also they were one of the first in the nations to actually push for air quality justice in the area. And all the stuff they're doing is very state of the art. As I previously mentioned, after 50 years, the basin doesn't have clean air yet. However, clean air is within sight. As you saw in the previous graph, stage 1 ozone episodes have plummeted from 121 in 1977 to just 7 in 1996. And the last one, I believe, was in Upland, which is just a few minutes away from my house. If all emission reduction measures in the 1987 Air Quality Management Plan are carried out, current federal air quality standards can be met by 2010, which I believe they are. The issue is that current EPA, or Environmental Protection Agency standards here in the United States, some of their standards people believe that they are not high enough or rigorous, let's say, enough. So EPA is considering strengthening the ozone standard and adding a new standard for particulate matter smaller than 2.5 micrometers. Interesting. They already have it. So this is really old information. So yeah, EPA already has a standard for 2.5 PM 2.5 of 12 micrograms per cubic meter. I don't know why. Maybe they said that it's going to be reduced even more. Achieving the proposed air quality standards in the future will require at least as a commitment as residents and officials make it in the 1940s, when they first decided to do something about the terrible menace called smog. So at the end of the day, all the work that the agency has done in the basin and the work that the people in Los Angeles and Riverside, San Bernardino, and Orange County have done has been because people spoke, people were concerned about their health, people noticed that there was an issue, people cared, and people took action. And even though there was a lot of efforts to not implement these regulations within the basin, people ended up winning. And although the agency is still very sensitive to business, what matters is the people, and they help the people the most, and they've done a remarkable job. And I believe I can now share the film. If you have any more questions, I'm knowledgeable of the agency as I live in the LA basin, but I'm not, I don't know their whole history, but it's very interesting as I read part of it, and I recommend you check it out. So Julene, I just go ahead and
Yep. All right. So we're going to pause the recording and screen the short documentary by the agency, and I guess resume recording for discussion.
So the film is over. Can anybody hear me?
I've also resumed recording.
Okay, perfect. All right. So what do you guys think of the film? Anybody?
Do you have any initial reactions, anyone?
I can say a couple of things about the film. I think it is an informative film. They talk a little bit about the science of pollution, about ozone, and where the main sources are. But I think more than just being informative, I think it is a call for people in Southern California to actually take action, which I honestly wish it was a little bit more out there in the media and had more than 60,000 views on YouTube, because there's 70 million people in the LA basin, and honestly, 70 million people need to watch this movie just to realize that it is an important air in LA and Riverside, San Bernardino, and Orange County is important for people. And like the movie said, businesses and the economy is really important, but at the same time, we're all living here together, and we all need to take into account that the air we breathe is like the basic thing that we have. And if without that clean air, we can't really live here. So I think it's a great call to action, I'd say.
I'd have to agree a lot. I actually really, really love the film. I expected one thing, and then I got a completely different thing. I think that even though the film focuses on Southern California, it's extremely relatable to any area of the world, really, because they were able to mention not only all the different parts of the industry, but also like all the different people that are influenced. So say somebody in India can relate to certain things that were talked about in the film, and somebody who lives in, I don't know, in Japan near the, I don't know, the ports, they can relate. So everybody can relate in some way, shape, or form. And I personally really, really love the film. I'm going to share it.
Yeah, and it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't just relate to Southern California. This is, it's people, and people caring about their own health, and people caring about those people that don't have a large representation in government or in any decision making, really. Those are usually the ones that suffer the most, because those are the ones that live by the factories, or those are the ones that live where air pollution is dumped. Because if, at the end of the day, if a person that is well off doesn't like the air that he breathes, he can move to somewhere else. He can move to, like the film said, West LA, and not suffer the consequences that people in the Inland Empire suffer. And like the film said as well, it's when people think about the economy and about just business growth, they many times they don't realize that there is growth with sustainable solutions. So by being sick because of air pollution, it's costing a lot of people money on health insurance, which is taking a lot of workers are taking time off work. They're not getting the productivity that they should be getting, because they're sick. But then if we all work together and we make air quality a priority, people won't be as sick, and there won't be as many health costs, and there will be a lot more economic growth if we take that health into consideration. Anybody else?
Yeah, no, totally. And also, Alejandro, I'm so sorry. I just unmuted you. I realized I had muted this whole time. But yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if the pollution gets so bad that you have to close like businesses in the city for one day, you lose millions or billions. So even if you solely have an economic stake, this is an issue that matters. So no matter what angle you take, like social, environmental, like health, economic, it's just, it makes sense to care about it.
Yeah, 100%. In any way, it's just, I think a lot of people are blinded, or I would say more deaf to the economical benefits that reducing air pollution would have. A lot of people just say, oh, this is an attack to my business, or a lot of people really, they care about money. That's all they care about, but they don't realize that by solving air pollution and by having those extra regulations on their factories, on their cars, could ensure a healthier lifestyle and also provide them with the competent workers that they need in their businesses, you know. So it's just a communication. I think mainly, I think what happens is a lot of the environmental justice with water, with air, with any really environmental issue is not being communicated in a way where, I'd say, people that don't care about them see the benefit of, reducing air pollution or water pollution. They only see, like, care about making this amount of dollars. If the water is dirty, then I don't really care that much because I'm making this much money. But people don't realize that they can make even more money by having their clean water. So
I think that's where this film, as a business major, like that's something that we constantly have to consider. And I think this film, because a lot of things are going in the humanitarian direction, so like social entrepreneurialism and caring about your HR and caring about your workers, making sure they have enough time off and they're not stressed. So I think as that movement grows, a film like this could definitely, especially in the business community, could definitely kind of change the mindset from just caring about the last dollar, the last financial impact of it, and turn it more into kind of almost a social cause that they could use. So I think this film has a lot of potential. So just as it is, and the whole issue in general. So I don't know. I have a very optimistic view on where it's going to go. So especially after watching the film.
No, I think it really has. I think people should watch it. And again, I think it's really sad that it's not promoted in a way that it should. Especially here in Southern California, it should have a lot more views. People should be watching this instead of the Kardashians. Let's just say that. As I guess cool and fashionable as the Kardashians can be, this is what we breathe in Southern California. People that live in Hollywood, people that live in Beverly Hills, they're breathing the exact same air. So this is something that we're all in together. And I think that many people just they just aren't aware. If they are aware, they're just like, oh, I can't do anything about it, therefore, whatever. I'm just gonna let somebody else do the work. But in reality, it's all a team effort, and everyone plays a big role in this. So whoever watches it, I think will realize that they, just even by raising awareness or by communicating to people in their community that, hey, like the air is gross, like we should do something about it, and not just sit there. It's like, oh, because I've heard a lot of people say LA is polluted or Riverside is polluted. Yeah, it's so gross here. But they still drive when they don't need to drive, or they themselves don't take the precautions to reduce air pollution as much as they should. They just, many people just love to complain and not do anything about it. But I think if there was some, and this is the whole purpose of the Fair Air Coalition, is to give the resources to those people that are aware of the issue, a way for them to, I guess, pitch in, put their little grain of sand to reduce air pollution in their region. So, anybody else?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm also on the video, but I get disconnected a lot, so I'm on the phone. But I really liked how the film kind of began with the quote that the guy said, you have to take care of the people that don't have the power to take care of themselves. And I think, we can interpret that in many different ways. And one of them is educating others that aren't educated on whatever topic, so spreading the word, raising awareness. And then it just threw me a little off when he said we can change our diet, we can change exercise, but you can't change the air you breathe. But so what I thought when he mentioned that, I thought, okay, but we can work towards it, right? Mm-hmm. Like we can work towards changing our air. So, and then I thought, okay, what would be 3 different points or steps of action that we can take, and then about the air or environment being more polluted in different areas and affecting different groups of people. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why, I don't know, maybe politicians or, higher people don't take much attention to this topic, because then there's this huge group of people that you have to deal with and they lack resources. And so what can you do, But I think it's very important to also educate them. And I think that maybe organizations that fight for better air quality or a better environment in general can target a lot of fitness people, because they, like I'm a runner and I care about, when I'm running, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm breathing pollution. So I think that would be something great that, other organizations can do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think that, and I can, from experience, because I was able to talk to a lot of, or some assembly members and senators at the California State Capitol. A lot of them, they weren't really aware, or they didn't really care that much about air pollution. It's interesting, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but like you said, a lot of people that are high up there, a lot of people with power are knowledgeable of it. So I think the largest step, I mean, you can take, your own steps, such as, buy a hybrid car, or try to ride your bike whenever you can. You can take those smaller steps, but in reality, for example, you cannot, I guess, control yourself the emissions that come out of the Port of Long Beach, which is the major or the largest emitter here in Southern California. But what you can do is educate those people in power that can make those decisions to, a lot of them, like we've been saying, a lot of them think that by putting these regulations, they're gonna, not as many boats will come from China, not as many these or that will happen. And that's not necessarily the truth. There are a lot of resources, like the movie was saying, there are resources, and the science is out there, and there's knowledge, and everything is out there. It's just a matter of education. I think what this film was also implying and highlighting is that there is a lack of education, and that's what's the most important part of it. So as you were saying, Alejandra, any group, runners or fitness people or schools or anybody that breathes air, which is everybody, should raise awareness about this air pollution. I think you guys froze.
My computer got disconnected, but I'm still on the phone.
Oh, okay. I think Julie And Julia disconnected. Are you
Yeah. Oh, it's working perfectly for me. Is it
okay? Okay,
still working for you?
it's working. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I agree with everything. And I think that it's really helpful that the video says, like, this can be a success story. Because, like, when you were mentioning, you hear people saying, like, oh, the air is disgusting. And it's kind of like admitting defeat, which I totally get. And I think, even if you didn't take away many facts from the film, I think just knowing that there's an agency who's putting all of their time and energy and resources into like reaching this one goal, I think is like reassuring.
Yeah, and this is something that you gotta realize as you go vote as well. These are government agencies that really do need funding. For example, a lot of them are terribly underfunded. In fact, when we contacted the South Coast Air Quality Management District and we asked for somebody to speak at our forum, they were saying that it would strain their budget. So I don't really know what that means. I'm guessing they don't have a bunch of money to play around with. But it is true. Usually with these agencies, they're very limited, and they apply for a lot of proposals. There's a lot of red tape that have to go through this, and this is why initiatives from people have to start. Like, people in the community have to start their own initiatives to raise awareness and to also support these agencies that are really trying to work hard to provide the healthy air that people need. And like even like Julien was saying, a lot of people think that air pollution here in Southern California is bad. The job that the South Coast Air Quality Management District has been doing is really, really, I honestly would consider it a success story, because we would not be able to live here if the levels of pollution were the same as in the 40s or 50s.
So I feel like we can all agree that we think everyone should watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But given that, do we actually see ourselves sitting our dear friends and family down to watch this documentary? Like, is that something you can see yourself doing?
Yeah, I told all my roommates, I sat everybody down and watched it. Like, you need to watch this. A lot of people just don't enjoy watching things that are informative. They just like to watch things that are entertaining, that have action, that have, I don't know. They just don't like to watch, because at the end of the day, it is an informative. It's kind of news, right? And people don't like that. People just want to have fun. But especially in Southern California or anywhere, if you know your city is polluted, you need to watch this documentary, because one, it empowers you. Two, you get to know how your city is. And I'm sure, this is just Southern California. If you live in China, there's documentaries, there's other resources that you can find that can educate you on the situation in your area. And yeah, I think everybody needs to be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I also do think, though, that it's not just the fact that it is nonfiction. I think because we live in a place where we're just constantly hearing really terrible, like very real news, it seems like when people do have a small window of time to watch something, they want it to be like an escape. And this is very much not that. This is like you're head-on confronting this really urgent and terrifying issue. So, yeah.
I think it's terrifying, but at the same time, I think it's exciting because, again, it's not necessarily just saying, oh, there's air pollution.
Yeah.
It gives you that success story, and it gives you that empowerment. And at the end of the day, it's funny because when I tell people that I am studying air pollution, especially people here that live in Los Angeles, like, oh, you're trying to clean up your air, or you're trying to clean up our air. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna clean up your air. You guys are gonna clean up your air. Like, if it's everybody, I'm not just gonna, it's not just one person. This is something that is a group effort. Everybody is in this, everybody. So you cannot just rely on one person to do the work for you. This is, if you pollute, you are also part of the issue. And that's something that I think people have an issue admitting, that they're part of the issue. We're all part of the issue. By us living in this wasteful society, we waste everything. We waste so much. And that's the main thing. It's like, you know, we don't have, for example, with Alejandra's initiative, there is food. There is plenty of food. But we waste so much of it. And people that could be using that food, they're not using it because it's just all going to waste. Same thing with air. The city of LA, or just the LA basin, really, you do not need to drive everywhere. You could take your bike, or you can invest in a more of a rapid system or infrastructure. It just takes thought, and it takes planning, and it takes effort. And I think that's what everybody has to really do. And it's not going to be easy, obviously, but like a CGIU, the Clinton Global Initiative, there was the astronaut. There was an astronaut that was saying that she's working at a station where she's making all these very important decisions for these, you know, NASA. You know, NASA is a very big government agency. So she's in that station making all these really, really, really important decisions that are very crucial for research and for NASA overall. She said, all you can do is try your best. Try your best, and that is the most you can do, is try your best. And I think a lot of people are just complacent and don't try. But I think if we all try, I think this world will be a much better place.
It was beautiful.
No, it's true. It's true. And especially our generation, I guess we're split. There's people that really care and people that don't care at all. And I think it is part of the task of people. It is the task of people that care. The task is to go educate people that don't care and make them realize that they have the power to actually make a difference. Because everybody, again, it's not, I can change the air, or the agency cannot make the whole basin, you know, 100% pristine clean air. It's all about individuals. So, okay, so any other thoughts? No? All right. So it is fairly early. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think Julia had a presentation from last time that we had unfortunately run out of time for. So because, you know, we're wrapping up discussion, this might be a good time to segue into that. How does that sound?
Perfect. Yeah, definitely.
I believe you're muted. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let me put it up. All right. So basically my section or my presentation focuses exactly on what you were talking about earlier, Pedro. Like, what can you do? Like, what sort of projects can you start in your neighborhood so that you could start making a difference, or start informing people, or start educating your the population that you live in order for them to understand that they need to start helping you make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually based on a speaker that we had in February. It was Claudia Chavez. And she's in the chemical and environmental engineering at UC Riverside. So Pedro, she's a fellow classmate, or she was. And she had this project down in Costa Rica where it was called Biogas Costa Rica, and what they did was they took natural resources from the farm animals and they turned it into great indoor a great indoor fossil fuel energy source. So instead of burning wood or going into the city to buy propane tanks, which takes a lot of time, or gas, which takes a lot of money, they can use all the things that they have locally to produce the same energy that they need to make their food. And actually there were a few other uses for this system that they put together. So as you can see, it reduced indoor air pollution from fossil fuel burning. So like I said, instead of burning wood. Some of the additional benefits that I mentioned, the biodigester. So basically it kind of helped with the treated, I don't remember what that means, I'm sorry. It eliminated odor and the risk of disease transmission. So basically, okay, so the way that the farms were set up was it was not very safe, not only for the people, but also for the farm animals. So the way they were kept, so their cages were not very efficient and they were not very safe. So, and they produced a lot of trouble and they were very cumbersome. So when they came in to kind of install this biogas system, they were able to set up this little kind of like this little farmhouse or this little pen for the pigs that the farmers owned, and were kind of able to to clean up the living area for the farm animals. And not only that, but they the system that they created kind of cleared out a certain area. And when this new form of fuel was going into the house, it also acted as it acted as a fertilizer, but there was also some water that was being able to come from that as well. So there were quite a few different benefits from just one biogas system. And the way she set up the project, it actually did not take her a very short while. It took her, I believe, 2 years to plan out the project and to make sure all the components were in order and make sure that all the agencies were involved in the local area now in Costa Rica. And at the end of the day, when she actually got everything going, it took them, I believe they installed like 90 units within a matter of weeks. And that was because they got the community involved, they had the right leaders, and some of the other things that I'm going to talk about. So in order for you to take personal kind of action in your community, like if you have the time and you have the means and you have the people who can support you, one of the things that you need to start with in order to kind of gather a following is to educate the people on the issue. So, which is great because we have these forums for educating the people who are here and who are overseas as well. And so not only are we creating an educational platform for people to just know what's happening, but it also creates an incentive for people to go to the right sources and demand that air quality is a right. Air quality is something that their government should take care of, or air quality is something that they as a community can do something about. Work under local organization systems. So obviously the local government is someone that has influence all over in your community. So they are obviously a great asset that you can use. When you have conversations with these organizations, you have to have like I said, the support of the community, which is why you have to start with the education. The next one is consider all dimensions of the problem. So what she meant by that is that if you have, say, that air pollution, the video talked about it being an economic issue, it being a health issue, it being a social issue, it being like it had so many different aspects that were influenced by that one thing, especially in certain regions, that you have to be able to not only consider where the problem is coming from, but what is going to be the solution. So in regards to that, when they installed the biogas system, the solution to one problem, which was indoor air pollution, was also all of these other components. It was a fertilizer. It was a way to kind of create a sustainable farm environment. It was a water purifier. So there were a lot of different solutions to one problem. So it was able to kind of cover a lot of different bases. And that's something that you and your group that you have, as well as your local organizations, when you come together, is something that you can brainstorm and put together as, this is the problem, this is what we need to do, and this is the solution that we're going to get from solving this one problem. And that's going to be a great incentive to all the people that are going to be involved. Plan every aspect with elaborate detail. That comes without saying. Like I said, her planning stage for the project was about 2 years. So within that, they had to make sure all of the contractors were in order, the actual product was working properly, so they had to develop the prototype, they had to test it, they had to make sure everything was exactly as it should be. They had to make sure that all the people in the community were a part of it. They had their test farm where they were able to develop it and say, yes, this works, let's give it, or let's work with all of these other farmers in the area and give them this sustainable solution. Next, we have to choose convenient, practical, and functional solutions. Okay, we already talked about that in the previous 2 sections. Have a reliable team. So that is she mentioned, was one of the most crucial things that you could have in your project, because if you can't rely on your team, you won't be able to achieve your goals. And that includes not only the people that are part of your educated group, but also part of people who are in government. So make sure to find components of your group project, because you can have everybody in the kind of like the core of the project. So make sure that the people at the core are the most reliable, are the ones that you can trust with all of the different components, with all the details, with different solutions, with everything, with the logistics. So there's a way that if anything, everybody's keeping each other accountable, everybody's able to be a part of it, no matter what. If one thing can't be solved, somebody else is able to fill in and kind of keep the project going instead of letting it stay stagnant. Involve everybody, no matter profession or position. This is actually a very important component. So this is during the execution of the project. This is during the execution of the solution for your problem. So when you have your plan, you have your team. Now when you execute, if it's done by the few that do everything, your project's not going to get very far very fast. So if you're able to see what the community is able to offer, who in the community would like to volunteer and be a part of it, who would like to see what they're able to contribute, whether that is one of the guys in the community projects was a construction worker. So he was able to take care of all the different construction components of the project. One of them, or quite a few of them, were actually local government agents. So they came in and they kind of showed that the government was a part of it, and they were able to encourage the people to do more. I believe there were other people who weren't doing anything on the site, but they were able to kind of, feed the people and keep everybody motivated and going. So no matter what somebody's able to offer, nothing is not important. Everything and everyone can contribute something to the end result. And if not to the physical end result, to the process, which is just as important. Let everybody contribute with their best abilities. That leads to that. Long-term follow-up. I think that is included in the plan every aspect to elaborate detail. So obviously when you create this solution, you're able to see exactly where everything is headed. You're able to see, okay, we've hit step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. So if by the end of all these steps, you know exactly how we got from step 1 to step 5, now the follow-up is the most important part, because not only are you going to gather information on how your project was able to benefit the community or the people or even the whole region, depending on how big your project becomes or how widespread that idea becomes. It also creates kind of like a positive affirmation for what you're doing. So say in Palm Beach County, in the city of West Palm Beach or Palm Beach Gardens, which is where I am, say we start this and we're very successful, the news media are going to pick it up. People are going to see it, and they're going to replicate that project elsewhere. And then as we follow up with our success, we're going to be able to follow up with everybody else's. And in the end, she said, was the most important, believe in your dreams, believe that your dreams can come true. Because without faith in what you can do, not everybody will be able to stand with you. You'll have people who, if you have in your down days, they'll kind of bring you back up. But if you have the project, you need to have as much belief in what you're doing as everybody else who's with you, because that's what a true leader does. They inspire other people to act in not only their own best interest, but in the best interest of everybody and others. So I think as a whole, if you take it from step 1 to step 10, you'll see that it might take a while. It's not going to be done in 36 hours. It's not going to be done in a month. It's not going to be done in 3 weeks. It might take a while, but the end result, the long-term benefit, the long-term follow-up is going to yield greater results than if it was done in a short-term period, because short-term results don't always follow through. And in addition to taking action, I also included some resources from our older forums. So if you're ever trying to find documents to support what you want to say, or support either, or use as an educational resource, or use as something to show people, and I actually didn't include the video on here, but you guys have the link to the video now. We've got the World Health Organization. Obviously, that's where a lot of the basic information is going to be worldwide, countrywide, citywide. That's where you're going to find the details. That's like the numbers. Smog City 2 was actually a game that we discussed in the first few forums, and I thought it was a great example with playing around with as if you were kind of in charge of the city, to see how much does car pollution play into your environment, or into the smog levels that are in the city. How much do factories play a role? How much does your personal use of certain utilities play a role? So all of that excuse me, has an impact at the end result, which is your air pollution levels. And excuse me, there are a lot of different fun things to play with in that game. So it's another great resource that we can use. Cowspiracy. So for those who were with us, like in the very, very first forums, we had a forum that was dedicated completely to agricultural pollution, which is actually a very, very serious problem. And people don't realize it because, you know, they don't connect agriculture to pollution, even though there is a direct correlation, especially when it comes to the kind of from the waste and from all the other things that aren't done properly, and so on and so forth. So Cowspiracy is a great informative documentary that can give like an inside look on what's going on in the agricultural world. And then there is a journal that we have recently used, and actually is a great resource for people who want an in-depth understanding of how air pollution changed a community. The last article is a great example. So obviously on environmental law, it had to do with something that we talked about last month. And again, something to read. It's more in depth, it's more detailed. It's something that you can use kind of when you have an argument, or when you have something that you want to prove to someone. You have those resources to back you up. You have those facts that show you, hey, this is what it is. These are facts. This is the truth. This is not something I'm just making up out of thin air and calling it truth, such as a politician or something who might misuse a fact or two. Anyway, and the last thing, I don't know, Pedro, if you're going to talk about this, but we actually started a petition to the UN, making clean air as a human right. And kind of demanding it be on one of the top 125 lists of human rights, I believe, that they have on one of their web pages. The list of issues is located right there as a link. And we have a link to our actual petition on the Facebook page. We have it on the website. We have it in other media forms as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you could find it and access it and sign the petition. So even if you don't start a humongous project in your backyard, you still have a way to make a difference with just one swoop of your hand. So we know that it says inadequate regulations and lack of attention to the issue are some of the big contributors that don't let people see the issue for what it really is. So, and you can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so great. I think you'd make a fantastic leader. I love how you emphasize inclusivity so much. You kept saying, like, it doesn't matter what you can do, who you are, like, you're a valuable asset to the team. And that part you said about contributing to the process, that was key. I really like that.
Yeah, and everyone can make a difference. Like it's a little grain of sand, right? Thank you very much, Julia. That was great. Everything was great. I haven't as of the petition, I would suggest everyone sign it. And also, I wanted to ask, if you're watching the video, you can also send me suggestions on how we can make it more visible and how we can, market this petition, just to make it, to throw it out there. I think, through the forums is a good thing. How else can we do it? Social media, we put it out there in the MCN network. And if you have any recommendation or any sort of, resources that you can share for us to, spread the word, please. Any other comments? No? Okay. Well, I think if nobody else has anything else to say or do, or I think we have come to the conclusion of the forum.
Yeah.
I'll just share something real quick.
Yes, please do.
I think another way to spread the word is, like each of us, what actions can we take? And personally, I will share. So I'm on the board for the United Nations Association of Denver, and our board is huge this year. So our next board meeting, I will share this with the global chair of organizations. She's in charge of connecting organizations and local initiatives. So maybe, I'll see what she can do, or we can do. I'll help her with this to promote this, because I think it's so important. And it's still a new topic, but because of all the forums, I'm getting more familiar with it. And then for the whole board to share the petition, it'll be at least 20 people and to sign it. So,
what I guess club or organization do you say again? The board of the
United Nations Association of Denver.
United Association. I'll search if there's something like that here. Because I was wondering if you be involved with the UN in the West Coast. Because it's, everything is over there in the East Coast. So I was wondering about that, if there was anything. Because we contacted also the Human Rights Watch about this petition. Julian and I had a crazy email section. I don't know how many people we emailed. But basically what we wanted is to have an input from, human rights experts to see how we can make this petition more efficient. But they seem to be busy with other things. So, I'll definitely send them an email. So UN, let me write it down. What is it called? UN?
It's the United Nations Association of Denver, and it's under the United Nations Foundation. So if you want to get in contact with anyone, get someone from the UN Foundation. And I can get you some contacts too. That way they can locate a chapter near you, and then you can get in contact with that chapter.
Definitely, that'd be great. That'd be
okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are chapters all over the U.S. I know there's one here in Boston. So that's a really great idea. It's especially relevant to them, given it's not really local government. It's United Nations.
Yeah, right.
Focused.
We want to do this on the global scale, right? Because the main concern is that the U.S. is making progress, Europe is making progress, but it is those that live in poorer countries, the low-income countries, that struggle to make this a priority within their government. So this is something that's the whole reason why the campaign was on the global scale, because although places like Los Angeles or Denver or cities in the US are polluted, it cannot compare to cities in developing countries, because those cities are the ones that are suffering from a lot of air pollution. I was just talking, so I'm going to South Africa in October to do a air pollution research abroad. It's funded by the USA. And I was talking to the advisor over there in South Africa, and she was telling me that regulations are so chillax and people are not even aware about air pollution. In the rural communities, it's just not a priority. And that's South Africa, which is the more developed country in Africa. So imagine other countries, and it is all for the health of the people. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Alejandra. I will certainly check that out. And I think we can call it for this forum.
Yes. And if anyone has thoughts, comments, questions afterwards, we all have each other's email addresses. Don't hesitate to reach out and share the video. I will try to get my family and friends to watch it. I will watch it again with them. I think it was really good and engaging.
And it's only 20 minutes. I'm sure everybody can get 20 minutes. There it goes.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, everyone.
For the great work.
Yeah.
See you the next forum. And
see you all. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.